As you can see here on my jet lathe, I've already made some modifications to the control box. The first thing is disconnecting it from its supply source and removing the box. So if you peek around to the back side of the box, you'll see there's a hinge here with 2 screws. We're just going to remove those screws, remove that hinge from the lathe ways. So after you have the control box removed, you take the back panel off. You need to take this toggle switch here and remove it and remove your fuse holder. And I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but I happen to have already installed mine. I'm sorry I didn't think to show you the entire process. But anyways, so if you can see, you want to make sure when you have the single pole switch here installed that you have plenty of room for your new double pole double throw switch as far as the terminations and all. You just want to make sure you have plenty of clearance for your connections before you drill your hole. First thing you want to do is just going to remove your single pole switch from the control box, and if you look right here, there's 2 little tabs on this fuse holder, and you just squeeze them and the fuse holder comes out ever so gently forward. Okay, I've removed the double pole double throw switch for clarity's sake, so it's not in the way. And so the very next thing you would need to do is to locate your power source, which is going to be this top cable here, this top SJ cord, and you want to look and get the neutral and the hot coming from that particular cable, and you want to butt splice right here with some butt splices. You want to butt splice about 6 to 7, 8 inches of some 14 gauge wire. I believe this is 14 gauge. Right to that power feed. You just use opposing colors of the same gauge wire, 14 gauge, and you can put a little terminal on each end that'll about 1.5 inches or 2 inches pigtail with another terminal. And you'll see why they're opposing colors in a minute. Okay, so here's the double pole double throw switch. Has been removed. You can see this switch is on in both positions on both ends. It's never off. It's on the bottom. There's 6 terminations. The center terminations are your load side terminations. And don't worry about mixing up your neutral or your hot across these 2 terminations here in the center. It doesn't matter if you put your neutral or your hot on this side or vice versa. If you're hot on this one, then you need your line voltage hot on the same side. So the center is your load, and the end is your line voltage. And so basically all we're doing is we're simply reverse the polarity feeding the circuit board. Now if you look in the bottom right hand corner of the box, right in here, you'll see coming off that circuit board is a hot and a neutral as well. This is feeding 120 volts to the circuit board, and the circuit board converts that electricity to direct current, and it produces 162 volts DC voltage for the motor. The motor's a DC motor, and our input voltage is alternating current, but we don't have to worry about that. Okay, here we go with them connected, and as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't really matter which side you put them on, but it's going to be feeding this circuit board. So that's where they go, the centermost contact. So now that we have our control box back together, it's mounted on the lathe, we want to get some type of enclosure. I happen to use a cheap Radio Shack type control box, project box. I cut it in half, and it covers my switch, so I'm able to kind of place my finger in there and toggle the switch back and forth. It doesn't have to be that, but you need to have some type of guard so that you don't accidentally turn your toggle that switch while you're operating the lathe. So we'll see it in operation. So see that little sawdust up there? It's obviously coming towards me. Top's coming towards me, so it's a typical rotation of the lathe. Remember, turn it off completely. Come to a complete stop. Then flip your switch. If you don't, you're going to fry your board. So we turn it back on. Now we're in reverse, and this will work perfect with, so you can see I dropped the sawdust up there. And it's going backwards, so it's rotating in reverse, and you can go all the way up to max speed, just like you normally could. Turn off completely, toggle the switch back in the forward direction, turn the lathe back on. To prevent any type of runoff on your spindle threads, you would not want to use these spindle threads at all when you have a your lathe in a reverse function. You want to make sure you use your Morse taper and use some type of drawbar through your headstock and put a washer and a nut and lock your drawbar and lock your manual in place. You shouldn't have any issues as long as you have the drawbar. You're able to use both forward and reverse. I hope you enjoyed the installation. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My email address will be provided at the end of the video.